How much would it cost to restore a W123? Now, the kind of restoration I'm talking about is not a, we're going to go through and fix everything that's broken on the car. I've actually been giving this a lot more thought. What we're talking about is a car that you find in a field somewhere that has significant rust, significant engine damage, significant interior damage. Basically a car that needs everything. Not a car that needs some things to be a functional car again, but a car that needs absolutely everything. So this wouldn't be a partial restoration, it would be a full restoration, a nut and bolt restoration where you take every piece of hardware off the car, yellow zinc plate it, you take the body shell, you dip it, you take the whole car and go through every system on the car. So we're going to do a cost by cost analysis, line item analysis, and see what all the major systems in the car would take to put right. And then we're going to add it all up and we're going to see roughly where we are. So to be straightforward and fast, I'm going to deal with round numbers and increments of $1,000 and probably as close to like 5,000 or 10,000 as I can get. And so a lot of these will be in increments of $5,000 or $10,000 just because of things called cost overruns that occur with every single restoration. So for starters, let's pick a car. Let's say I'm on a farm one day in the middle of North Carolina and I find a 1978 240D that I like, and it's an automatic. It has no sunroof. It's a pretty basic car with manual windows, and it's a color combination that's really interesting, like a mango green on bamboo or avocado green on green car. So something that's really neat, but also not a particularly desirable car, which makes this even more interesting. Let's say I acquired the car for free, so now I have to look at which parts I have to go through. Automatically, the first things I'm going to do are set aside the engine, transmission, and the rear axle, and I'm going to have to rebuild the engine. A rebuilt engine is going to be about $7,000, I'd say, to get all the parts and labor done, irregardless of the cost of installation. The transmission rebuild, to really do everything right and yellow zinc everything, is going to be probably close to $3,000. So I have a $10,000 package. And then as far as the rear axle goes, it's probably going to need external seals and cleanup and paint. The rear CV axles will have to be rebuilt. And the rear suspension will have to be taken apart, painted, and all new bushings installed. So we're going to look at the rear axle and the rear suspension as one single $5,000 chunk, as well as balancing the drive shaft. So that's $15,000 of mechanical work. Now, we're going to have to take the complete interior out of the car. The seats, the dashboard, the evaporator case, the headliner, the windows. We're going to have to remove the doors. We're going to have to remove the front and rear glass. We're also going to have to remove the front fenders, and we're going to have to remove the trunk lid. We're going to have to remove the wiring harness from the car. So all of this is starting to sound like, if you're going to go through and do this carefully, take out the steering box, take out the steering column. If you're going to do this carefully, let's just assume that you're going to have 100 hours in disassembly. So that's another $20,000 to take the car apart responsibly and catalog everything. And that's just a number. So far our ticker is at about $35,000, which is still not too crazy, but we haven't done anything yet. Now, in order to make this project go right from the beginning, to get all the rust out of the car, we're going to have to dip the car, and we're going to have to take the fuel tank and dip it as well. Should any holes appear in the fuel tank is going to have to be welded and repaired, so we're going to probably have about $1,000 in the gas tank. Now, the body's a whole different story. Dipping a body itself, getting it to the point where it can be dipped, is going to be where the 100 hours or so comes in. But dipping saves a lot of time because you don't have to sit there and sand paint off. It just takes it all off, takes all the rust with it. So when I dip this thing, let's imagine I have a really rusty car. Let's say that I have to replace part of the firewall where the battery tray is. Let's say that I have rust underneath the A-pillars, which is a common hidden area. Let's say I also have a bad rear structural panel where the rear cross member meets the spare tire well. Let's say I also need to repair metal around the front and rear windshields. And for good measure, I'm going to dip all 4 doors and both front fenders, and they also need significant work. Now, if I'm looking at the rust repair in the car, if you guys thought the mechanical repair was time consuming, the rust repair is where it's really time consuming, especially doing a good job. We're going to estimate probably about 400 hours for rust repair, which would total to, if you're working with a body shop that charges $150 an hour for rust repair, not paint, you're looking at an expense of about $60,000, and you need to pad it with another $65,000 with another $5,000 for good measure, just to deal with any of the cost overruns. And we're going to add another $10,000 for materials and another $15,000 in body panels. So that's right now we're at $125,000. So at this point, we have a shell that's been repaired and has not been painted. We have an engine, transmission, and rear axle. And somewhere in there, we're going to have enough money to fix the fuel tank. So we're at the $125,000 point. We're looking at getting the body repainted in the original mango green. Let's estimate about $5,000 for materials, so that we're at $130,000. And to get the car finished, blocked, and painted with a show quality paint job as a bare shell, we're looking at about $35,000. So we're at $160,000. Now, we haven't talked about the interior or the dashboard yet. The route we're going to take with the dashboard is a complete recover with new vinyl vacuum chambered on. We're probably going to have to go with the services offered by Just Dashes, because right now nobody offers such a service in the United States, although I think in Europe it is possible. The same goes to the center console, and if the center console is significantly damaged, a used unit will have to be sourced. Now, there are a lot of parts that are going to have to be replaced with the interior apart. Items such as the blower fan switch, maybe the steering lock, carpet kit, rebuilt seats. All of these are going to be things that have to be, considered. So to set the dashboard aside, let's estimate $5,000 for the dashboard. So we're at about $165,000. And then for interior materials, we're going to need palm fiber pads for the front and rear seats. We're going to probably need seat springs because they're going to be all rusty. So we're probably going to have to get used ones from a late car. We're probably going to have to get seat covers, armrest covers, etc. And in order for these to get done to a high standard, we can't just take them to the local upholstery shop. We're going to have to really pick a shop that knows what they're doing. So somebody like this is going to be about double. So in order to get the interior really right with the materials and everything, I'm estimating another $25,000. So we're at $190,000, but now at this point we have a car that needs to be reassembled. So initially I estimated 100 hours to take it apart. Since we have all of our pieces sitting around, our brackets, our lines, etc., all these items should be yellow zinc plated. We should also be replacing suspension components in the front end. We should be resealing the steering box, or probably even rebuilding the steering box completely. We have to purchase weather stripping, so we have to purchase door seals and glass seals. We're going to assume the front windshield is okay and just has some pits in it. We're also going to need to get our chrome, our yellow, not our yellow zinc, our stainless steel or aluminum re-anodized, and we're going to need things like an NOS grill. We're going to have to, this is the part where the cost of parts is surprisingly high. So I'm estimating about $30,000 for all of this stuff. So now we're at $225,000 to get all of the parts we need to reassemble this car. But what I'm estimating for labor is what's probably going to blow your mind. I'm estimating because I've done this before, 225 hours to completely reassemble the car, test the car, and make it into a functional car. This includes outsourcing the installation of the headliner to an upholstery shop and putting the glass in yourself. hopefully items like seat belt retractors can be reused, but some items won't be able to. So there's going to still be a little bit of patina. You're not going to end up with a sterilized, perfect restoration. You are going to need some things like a steering wheel. You're going to need to do things like rebuild brake calipers. So we're going to get into the mechanical sorting part later, but let's just say to put the engine and transmission back in the car, the front suspension, the rear suspension, all the doors back together, all the glass back in the car, the headliner back in the car, you know, we're probably estimating about 50 to 60, let's say $60,000 in labor. So at this point, we're at $295,000. We're still going to have another, I would say another $10,000 to $15,000 in things like brake parts, a brake master cylinder, an exhaust system, items like a windshield wiper motor if we have to physically recondition it or get a good used one and clean it up and put it in. Things like a radiator, a hood pad. If you aren't happy with your headlights, which you're probably not in a field find car, you're probably going to have to spend some money on headlights too. So let's say that all these exterior details that make the car functional, things like AC hoses, a new old stock York compressor, an AC dryer, maybe a custom made parallel flow condenser that connects where all your AC lines would go. Let's say that we're going to need another $30,000 for this in labor. So we're probably going to be at $325,000, and you have to add another $15,000 as a cushion. So we'll say $340,000 because we forgot about tires, getting the original wheels refinished, getting things like an original set of Mercedes wiper blades, getting a replacement set of sun visors, getting the instruments rebuilt by somebody who's qualified to do them, whoever you think that is. Getting the, what's another thing? Buying a new old stock turn signal switch. Rebuilding the cruise control actuator if it has cruise control. Getting your lower dash panels replaced because they take the special clip-on lower dash panels. So we're sitting at the $340,000 to $350,000 mark. Now this is one of those things where I have to ask everybody, do you think that this is worth it? I'm sure you're waiting for my answer. My answer is this. If you think that this is just going to be a quick, easy, simple project because you want a car that is going to supply you with transportation, this is probably not the way to go. But if you really love the 123 and you view the 123 as a collectible car and something that's really special, you know, I would say that you'd have to work really hard at it, but you'd end up with something that was really unique. And so one of the reasons that I say this is because in the future, we're going to have a much harder time finding 123s. I also think that there's a certain panache that a really neat 123 has, whether it's a gas or a diesel, whether it's an early car or a late car. And some people view it as worth it and some people don't. So right now, there are people that are spending this kind of money to restore station wagons. We'll see where the rest of the market goes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you can, tap that bell for notifications. But you decide in the comments if it's worth it or not. Just think about what it costs to keep a new Range Rover on the road for 40 years, if that's even possible. So thank you guys for watching this video. We'll see you soon.